Here, we're going to be looking at a rogue build I put together for what I believe is going to be the best PvP build for the rogue in Season 1. Immediately, if you look at the Malignant Hearts here, there is no Wrathful. I was thinking about making an alternate version of this build that uses the Barber, and I do use the Barber currently on my rogue in PvP, but it's a little bit of a gamble because you can't really burst people down as well if you get killed during, like, say you roll a, what's considered, I guess, a good Barber, which you have 4 seconds to absorb damage. That's just now, you can't kill someone for 4 seconds. That's kind of a problem. So I don't really want to use it for that reason. And also, I like poison imbuement in PvP because poison just deals tons of damage because resistances don't work. And if you have the Barber on, you can't deal poison damage. It just doesn't do it. So no Barber. There's the other Wrathful Heart that implies all the imbuement skills. That one's really nice, but I replaced it with this little pink one down there. Probably like, why the hell is there a Devious Heart? Because they're all shit, supposedly, but trust me, that's goated. We'll get to it. So for the helmet, Mangler's Aspect. Lucky hit dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy has a chance to daze them. That's almost a 50% chance if you had to roll well. Daze, 2 seconds of just hard CC, really good. Aspect of the Protector, this is, I feel like, really standard for PvP, just a huge barrier for just hitting someone. Very easy way to ensure you stay alive a bit longer in every fight. These are tying directly to that. The Conceited Aspect, going to give you 25% increased damage. I prefer this over Edge Masters, because realistically, I think you're going to hold this barrier longer than you are going to have full resource. Then we got Cheats Aspect. You take up to 25% less damage from crowd control enemies, and when a crowd control enemy deals direct damage to you, you gain movement speed. That part's not really important because we're all pretty much doing hard CC here. The only soft CC we have in this build is cold imbuement. Still nice to get the movement speed, I guess. We don't have dash in this build. I opted for concealment. So having any movement speed you can have is great. See in the stats when I go over them for each individual item after that I opted for movement speed on a lot of these items. Then we have Exploiter's Aspect. You have 20% increased crowd control duration. This is really good. We'll get to something later that has, say, say 5 seconds of hard CC. Now you have 6 seconds. That's a lot of hard CC. If someone's hard CC'd for 6 seconds, they're gonna want to die. Like, you may not get it might be bad because you might not get the kill because they might just disconnect, but 6 seconds of hard crowd control is a miserable experience. And the proof of that is when Cold Enchantment was really busted, not 2 weeks ago. That was everyone's complaints, oh, I'm hard CC'd for forever. And like, realistically, that was only like 4 seconds at a time you're getting hard CC for. This is 6. It's incredible. And then for the Barbarians, which is going to be the big downfall of this build, well, not big, you'll still be able to shred Barbarians because of poison, but there could be a problem with, say, like a Thor's Barbarian who just tons of health, a big barrier which poison doesn't apply through, and they're going to be pretty much infinitely unstoppable. So those might be like the one person you have problems with, but I don't think there's any other build realistically that you're going to have much problem dealing with here. And I'll get into that a little bit later when we get to the skills. Blade Dancers is a must, given that we're using Twisting Blades, which we're using purely for the daze on it. I mean, just tons of damage as well, but enemies are dazed when impaled with Twisting Blades, and then have the skill that knocks them down. Just too good. Aspect of Disobedience, standard. Energizing Aspect. So if you look at these two, you'll notice neither of them are Aspect of the Umbral. That's because this is PvP. Okay, you're gonna get 4 energy when you crowd control someone, and then that's it. Like, you're probably gonna get 1 CC, maybe 2 off on a person before they die. So, oh, I get 8 whole energy. It's not really good. You're gonna argue, oh, I'll pick fights in crowds. You don't want to do that. You don't want to accidentally have your CC hit on a mob or just get beat on by fallen lunatics while you're chain stunning someone to death. And honestly, in my experience in PvP, you're not fighting around monsters a lot. At most, the Seething Abomination. So you got like 2. And I'll make a separate video on how I go about basically hunting people down when I play PvP and ensuring that you're getting as many fights as possible. Anyway, I'm using the energizing aspect because you can proc this infinitely off of someone. If you're doing, like, you're using puncture, then twisting blades back and forth, like rotating those skills. That's there, 7 energy every time you hit them with puncture. Mind you, you won't need to do that. You should have enough with inner sight, and vulnerable lasts quite a bit, so you shouldn't need to be rotating every time. But still, you're going to get a good 7 energy if you have it rolled high, or even 3. 3 still, it's 1 off of Umbral, and you can proc it as many times as you'd like on one character. I think for PvP or single target as a whole, or anything less than like 3 targets, energizing aspect is far better. Then we have aspect of corruption. Your imbuement skills have increased potency against vulnerable enemies. And you have Ashira's dagger. Not gonna try to pronounce that. So I tried to keep this unique free. I was going to make a separate build that was kind of more unique driven, that was based on lucky hit, and say like add frostburn to this. There was a helmet for the rogue that's unique that gives you increased lucky hit chance, so I was going to put those and then frostburn. But anyway, I was going to do that, but I didn't want to, you know, here's 3 uniques and now you gotta go find them or you're not going to be able to play this build. No, that's stupid. You don't need this either. This is just neat, and I feel like if you're playing rogue, you're probably playing twisting blades, and you might already have this because that's like standard for the twisting blades endgame build. If not, maybe consider changing this for edge masters, because down here we're using the accelerating aspect, so core skills increase your attack speed. If you don't have this weapon, like I personally don't have this weapon, I'd be using edge masters. And to the gems, standard emeralds and topazes. Now the first heart, which again, these can just go in whatever one you get really. Tempting Fate. So a lot of people use the other one. Where is it? I can't remember its name, but this one, Dark Dance. Okay. Every 5 seconds while above 60% life, core skills cost X life instead of your primary resource. They deal 20 to 30% more damage. I don't really like this idea on PvP. I don't like sacrificing your health, especially in this build. We don't have any healing. So sacrificing your health for 20 to 30% more damage isn't really worth it. Also, being above 60% life, that might not be the case. You might get pretty close. You might not. If you're playing this build properly, you could put this on, because you'll just be CCing everything you see. But if someone gets a jump on you, and you're using this, you're just adding to how screwed you are, because you're gonna get jumped, gonna get hit down real low, then you're gonna like pop concealment or something. You're gonna be probably less than 60% HP, sorry, and that's useless. So I use this. You're gonna have pretty good crit chance with this build. So this is pretty good. If you don't want this either for some reason, then you can put on this one's not a bad one if you want to deal with barbarians. Or even just for this build as a whole, actually. I forgot about the entire first part of this heart, because I was using it on a firewall sorceress earlier this season. This heart could be a really good choice. Yeah, your damage over times are increased for each different crowd control. You're going to be applying like freeze, stun, and daze. So I might actually swap that one out for this. That's pretty good. Unstoppable monsters, so if you have a barbarian who's unstoppable, or a druid who pops this for 6 seconds to grossly rage, you're going to be dealing 150% increased damage to them with poison, which is already insane, so maybe put that on. Revenge, 20% less damage as a whole. Like, that's self-explanatory. Now here's the one that everyone's probably salvaged 1,000 times. I know I have. They're like, why would I ever use this? After spending 150 of your primary resource, your next attack stuns enemies hit for 5 seconds. A 5-second stun that's then becoming, by minimum, 6 seconds with where to go. There, with Explorer's Aspect. And assuming, if we look at the stats, I've got crowd control duration as well, so it's getting higher than that as well. At minimum, 6 seconds of stun. That is absurd. Think about that. Think about standing still in a PvP zone with a poison rogue and twisting blade stabbing you for 6 seconds. You're dead. There's nothing you'll be able to do against it. You pop your unstoppable, right? Sorry, they pop their unstoppable, and then you shadow step on them, which will daze them again, and then you start pumping Twisting Blades into them, then they're stunned again. Hopefully you apply poison, or not poison, cold imbuement, your poison imbuement, both of them. So that's more CC on the cold imbuement, even if they use a second unstoppable to get out of that. And say they CC you back this time. You pop concealment, you hit them with Twisting Blades again, they get dazed again. And the daze knocks them down because of the skill we have put in, which I'll show later. It is an infinite cycle of you are chain hard CCing enemies. And this can really help add to it. You look, this is 30 injury cost, and that's like 150, so give or take 5 times. That's exactly what it is. But that's not really bad. Twisting Blades cast really fast, and if you really want, go hit a trash mob 5 times with Twisting Blades, and then go run to your target at PvP or go searching. And then your first attack off of that doesn't even have to be with Twisting Blades. You could then throw Puncture at them. You can just teleport onto them with Shadow Step. It will stun them for 5 seconds. And that's how you can start the fight. And that will be the end of the fight majority of the time. Here are the stats. I don't really want to get like too into why these were chosen. I'll just add a lot of unnecessary length. Just the only out of usual things that I added here was crowd control duration, damage to crowd control enemies. Other than that, it's pretty standard for whatever else you'd find on a Twisting Blades build. A lot of vulnerable and crit damage, damage reduction, etc. If we look at the skill tree, fundamental puncture, because that's just the only really good primary rogue skill. Apply your vulnerable. Obviously get the daze from Twisting Blades, 12% damage reductions, insane. Shadow Step is needed as it's your engage and also grants you the unstoppable to get out of a CC and re-engage. Weapon Mastery is just free damage. Concussive, Rapid Gambit, Trick Attacks. So this is a kind of important area. After knocking back or knocking down an enemy, you gain 12% increased critical strike chance. When you critically strike a dazed enemy, they are knocked down. So this is just saying when you critically strike an enemy, they're knocked down, because your Twisting Blades will always daze. And then when you knock them down, you gain more critical strike chance. And then you just keep that cycle going. They're going to get melted. This one's kind of useless, but I like dashing around. You can honestly take a point out of this and put it into there. And there you go. If you don't have extra dash charges on your boots, which I do recommend. I didn't see a section on this build calculator to add like the base stats for an item, but I would definitely take extra charges to dash on your boots. The movement speed after dash is, that's okay, but there's something real special about dashing like 4 times. It gets really annoying to the enemy. If you're choosing to play with Barber, with Concealment, choose this one, so that and always engage with Concealment, so that you always are proccing the Barber, right? You start the fight, and immediately every other hit that you take is going to go towards that Barber, and they're going to explode. Again, I don't necessarily recommend playing with Barber, but if you are, change from vulnerable to concealment, or to critical. Concealment, again, we're using to engage. I'm not using Pendant Greaves. Not only because I wanted the legendary aspect of like controlling one more, but also Pendant Greaves when you're using concealment just gives away where you are, and it's kind of stupid. But we're taking this to engage, and for the unstoppable, more movement speed, and the guaranteed 6 seconds of vulnerable is really nice. Exploit and Malice are pretty standard on this build, and I think all rogue builds. It's just an insane amount of damage. Precision Imbuement, same kind of thing, increasing your critical strike chance though, so that's going to help proc this more. Nope, this one. Gold, more CC. Poison, ridiculous damage. I'm going Debilitating Toxins. So if they break out of your CC combo or struggling to get it going at first, maybe they're hard to chase down, you missed Shadow Step or they dodged it, whatever, they're going to be dealing 15% less damage to you. And this is just more damage, so you're dealing at least up to 30%, as you can freeze with this, more damage to enemies, based off just using full movement. Adrenaline Rush, Haste, again, pretty standard for this kind of rogue build. Getting more energy and movement speed, and then momentum will help you with energy, damage reduction, and again, more movement speed. Now, lastly, for the Paragon, if you look at this build, I did not bother setting this up, and I put it in the notes. I would just use the Paragon board for any really Twisting Blades build. You could go to Max Roll and use theirs, which is the one I linked here. You can go to Icy Veins and use theirs. I'm sure you can find just like a poison Twisting Blades build. I might even link that in the notes here too. I have one saved. You can use their Paragon board. Didn't really feel like it was worth me going through and setting all this up because it's going to be pretty much the exact same. Yep, that is my theoretical meta rogue PvP build for this season. I don't have a showcase for this yet. I'm going to work on it. I myself need to put this up. I've been kind of experimenting with companion druid shenanigans recently, so I haven't been paying much attention to this, but I will try to get that going. There should be a IceShards PvP build coming out. Not build, but showcase of IceShards. It was absolute domination. That should either come out today or tomorrow. We'll see. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you use this build, if you absolutely dominated everyone. I feel like that'll be a high likelihood of success.